Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Drea Brit. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you, everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
We'll bring you the expert interviews, insightful discussions, and practical tips to make motherhood a little easier and help your family thrive.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace the advice, diagnosis, or treatment plans you have with your personal healthcare team. Please have a conversation with your trusted healthcare provider prior to making any changes or implementing any strategies or advice you learn from this podcast.
Whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Here at the Motherhood Alliance podcast, we challenge the status quo, ask the tough questions, and offer a supportive community for moms who want to make an informed, holistic choice.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Sandra Carpenter, who is a board-certified, full-time classical homeopathic practitioner and the owner of Source Healing Homeopathy. So years ago, Sandy was introduced to homeopathy as she was searching for a more holistic approach to help her 2 sons. And in 2017, after a 25-plus year career as a civil engineer, she realized that homeopathy was a career she wanted to pursue, so she did the one thing she said she would never do. She went back to school. In the spring of 2021, she completed her 4-year professional homeopathic practitioner training. And that same year, she ended her engineering career and focused on her homeopathy practice full-time. Sandy knows without a doubt that homeopathy saved her family from a life dependent on medications. Her favorite quote is from Charles Rappel, who wrote, "Take the I out of illness, add we, and you have wellness." I love that. She believes strongly in working in partnership with her clients as they take control of their overall wellness and vitality, and she works with clients as young as infants all the way to elderly and everyone in between. She also has a personal interest in working with emergency first responders like law enforcement, fire dispatchers, veterans, and their families. Sandy lives in Appleton, Wisconsin with her husband Ryan and their 2 dogs, Lily and Maddox. And for this series, we recommend listening to it in order, as Sandy provides insight into what homeopathy is and how it works in episode 1, then everything you need to know about homeopathic remedies in episode 2, using homeopathy in everyday life in episode 3, and then finally raising kids with a homeopathic approach in episode 4. So the episodes do kind of build upon each other. We loved learning from Sandy, and we know that you will too. So let's dive into today's conversation.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. We are so excited to be sitting here with Sandy from Source Healing Homeopathy. We had a great conversation in the last episode about kind of the history of homeopathy and her story behind it. And we are super excited to start talking about more of the nitty-gritty details of the remedies of homeopathy. So, Sandy, can you tell us a little bit more about the homeopathic remedies themselves? Like what do they look like? How do they come?
Homeopathic remedies are made from any substance in nature, actually. Plants, animal substances, minerals, think of the periodic table. And they go through a very specific process that makes them a homeopathic remedy. And this is what distinguishes homeopathy from like herbalism, especially. So whatever the substance is, whether it's a plant substance or a mineral substance, it's first made into a mother tincture. And then from that mother tincture, it goes through a very specific process of dilution and succussion. Succussion being pounding the substance in the bottle on a very hard surface for a specific amount of time. It's kind of like adding kinetic energy into the substance. There's different what we refer to as potencies. It's not strengths, but that's the closest thing that we can equate it to for people. And it's going to tell you how many times a remedy has gone through the process. So when you're looking at a remedy at the store, especially, it might have an X designation, like a 6X, or it might say 30C or 200C. That is telling you that, let's use the X potency example. That particular remedy, if it says 6X, it means it has gone through the process of taking 1 drop of the mother tincture and putting it in 9 drops of a water solution and then pounding it or succussing it. They used to do it by hands on hard books, but now we have modern technology and it's a machine. Yes. And that solution is a 1X. So X being 10, right? The dilution is 10.
Sure.
Then you take 1 drop of that, put it in, again, 9 parts of the water, succuss it. That's a 2. A C potency is a 1 to 100 ratio. So if you go to, one of the local stores and you get a very common remedy and it says 30C, it means it's gone through that process 30 times. Now, the little pellets that you talked about, those are just lactose milk sugar pellets. They're just a mechanism to make it easy for you to take the remedy. So the remedy is coated on those pellets. There are options out there for lactose-free pellets if people have concerns about that. So there is usually working with pharmacies, you can have those remedies made on lactose-free pellets if that is a concern. So that's the process of how a homeopathic remedy is made.
So you talked about a tincture, so that's how it starts. Is the actual deliverable that people are consuming typically the pellets?
It is typically the pellets. If you are working with a homeopath, they may choose to put you on a potency that you will typically take in liquid form. That is not something typically you will see over the counter. I know that there are homeopathic combination remedies that come in liquid forms that are available at different stores and through different areas, but that's not classical homeopathy. If it's a combination of 10 to 15 different remedies in the bottle. But the vast majority of the homeopathic remedies that you will be able to purchase either at a local store or you get from a homeopath will be the pellets.
Now you say combination, so that's a question right there, because I think when people think about medications, oftentimes you hear, well, you can't take that medication with this medication or there'll be this adverse side effect. So with homeopathic remedies, when you're talking about these come from nature, it kind of seems like, well, I could combine this one and this one and this, like everything would be fine for the most part. But I'm assuming that's not the case. So tell us about, like, can you combine certain ones? I'm assuming there's kind of a science behind it. That's where someone, an expert like you, would come in to know. And then as well as, like, if you buy something from the store, typically it might have a combination of something in it. So is that okay? Tell us the pros and cons of combining remedies.
So classical homeopathy is based on 3 main principles, one of them being one remedy at a time. And as we spoke about in the first episode, a little bit of the history of homeopathy and, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, who experimented on himself to elicit what are the healing properties of substances. Homeopathy is very individual. So that's why we have thousands of remedies, because we are matching one remedy with a person's specific expression of their symptoms. And so when you have a combination of multiple remedies that you're taking all at the same time, it's hard to know which of these remedies has been helpful, which possibly could be bringing forth some symptoms, because that's essentially what, was Dr. Samuel Hahnemann was doing. We call it approving. And if the potency is a little bit too low on some of those combinations, I know Boreon is a very common over-the-counter. They have a great selection of individual remedies. They also have some combination products out there that a lot of people use for their family.
Boreon is a brand?
Is a brand, yes. Okay. Boreon's a brand. And they do like combinations for, like, a common one is, I think it's called Cold Calm. There's a teething one out there.
Is it like Highlands? Is that the same?
Highlands is a different brand, a different brand. But their potencies are usually very low, like a 3X. Well, if you were to choose one of those combinations and you take it yourself or you give it to your child, one of the remedies in that product might actually be very well suited for what symptoms you have, but the potency might just be too low. So if you don't understand what that potency is of what you're taking, you might just think, oh, this doesn't work, and then move on to the next thing.
Yeah, that doesn't make homeopathy look good either if it's not working.
And that's a comment I would get quite a bit, is like, oh, I tried this and it just didn't work.
So one of your principles is as a classic homeopath, you will do one at a time so that you can really truly know what's working and what's not.
Right.
How fast do like if it's an acute issue or something, like I have a cold or something, how fast would you expect one treatment to work?
So for an acute situation, what we would do is usually you have someone take the remedy at least 3 or 4 times, and then you reassess. So when
okay.
you are working with a homeopath, you're constantly having a communication with them about what's happening with your symptoms. So if you take a remedy 3 or 4 times and there's no change at all in any of your symptom states, then it's time to move on to the next remedy. But if you take a remedy and then, oh, I'm feeling 50% better after I've had my 3rd dose, or then you stick with the remedy until it seems to stall out, or until your symptoms have been resolved by at least 80%. So we don't want to continue bombarding your vital force with the remedy. We always say, if your overall state is about 80% better, stop the remedy, and then you just let your body do the rest.
I love how you empower people to trust themselves, like their bodies, our bodies are so smart. And that's just, I love how it's part of that,
And everybody's going to respond differently.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you both have kids. They, how different they are, and everyone's going to respond differently.
Okay, I want to circle back to the buying remedies or different things in stores or even online. So let's just say my kid is coming down with a cold and I hear about a certain remedy and I go on Amazon and I'm typing it in and boop, there's something right there for $7.69. And I'm like, oh, this'll fix my problems for sure. Right. 2-part question. Are there any reputable brands that people can buy in a store or online that you feel like are decent? Or is it always just best to go straight through a homeopath to make sure you know what you're getting? Is there any way that people can buy things from a store or online and know that they're actually getting something that's quality? Now, that doesn't fix the what you talked about with the, I know you didn't say strength. What was the word you used?
Potency.
The potency. So the potency may still be off, but from a quality perspective, are there any brands that you recommend, or how do people approach this?
Right. So I already mentioned Boiron. It's Boiron. They're a very well known manufacturer, company for homeopathic remedies, and the majority of stores, like here in Appleton, we have the Free Market and Natural Healthy Concepts. They carry Boiron individual remedies in their stores. Another brand is Oleos, and I can get you that information for the show notes. They're the ones that provide the lactose-free pellets. I am starting to see some stores carry those in store, which is awesome, which is really, really great. Online, I know there are people who order from Amazon, and you can get Boiron on Amazon. One of the things that's really important that we haven't touched on is, in the United States, we have what is called the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States. It's like the Bible of how a homeopathic remedy needs to be made. It's the counterpart to the Pharmacopoeia of the United States for pharmaceuticals. And when a remedy is manufactured utilizing the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States, on the vial, it will say the potency of the remedy, and it will have HPUS next to it. So as a consumer, that's your way of knowing that this remedy is following the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States, which is following very strict standards to not only where the substance needs to come from and then the process that it has to undergo to become a homeopathic remedy.
That's good to know.
So that I think is a really important thing for someone to know about if they're just going to purchase it in a store. There's also online sources. Helios is an online source. Washington Homeopathics is another source in that has been around for, I think, over 100 years, actually, that you can order remedies online. If you happen to know a homeopath, which you now do, you can order kits through homeopaths. I encourage all of my clients to have a home kit with them. So for those acute situations, whether they're going to try to figure out what remedy they want to use on their own, or if they call me for an acute, and then I can tell them, okay, go into your kit and grab, blah, blah, blah. And here's how to take it. And then you don't have to think, okay, it's now 9:00 at night. Is the store open? Or, oh, if I order it on Amazon, I'm not going to get it until tomorrow. So
yeah, that sounds really handy. So are there different types of kits? Like, are there, kits for cold and flu, more for like injury, like acute injuries, or are they just kind of like, here's a home kit and this should cover the majority of like basic issues that people experience in their homes?
Right. So there's a basic, it's called a 64 remedy kit. So it's 64 of the most common remedies that you would ever need for an acute situation. And most of them are 30 C potencies. There are some 200 C potencies in there. But then we also have it at my practice. I have a kit that is for surgical support. I have a kit for flu and virus symptoms. We have kits that have been made up for pregnancy and childbirth. I've made up specific like travel kits for clients by working with the pharmacy that I work with. So it really just depends on what do you want to have on hand. But I do encourage everyone just to at least have the 64 remedy home kit.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they can get that through you, right?
Yes, they could.
Yeah. One question I do have is, like, there's so many different remedies that and like we were talking about, everybody is different. So if I feel like I'm coming down with a cold, this specific remedy might be for me and a different remedy might be better for someone else. Or how do you choose, especially if you're starting with one at a time, how do you choose which one to start with?
Are you asking as a layperson who wants to learn how to do this for your family at home, or
either way? I mean, even you as a professional, where would you start?
How do you know? Sandy.
Well, yes, but I mean, like, are you looking at specific symptoms? Like, are you really evaluating what the symptoms are? So if somebody has congestion, like, where is the congestion coming from? Is that how you dictate where you start?
Yeah. Or I guess another question is like, when somebody comes to you, what does that intake look like?
Right. So for an acute, let's just stay with the acute care right now. It's a lot of questions.
Yes.
And we do ask a lot of questions that, sometimes it can make people uncomfortable. But, so we want to know, what does that feel like a lot? If we use the example to say both of you have sore throats, I'm going to ask, well, tell me, what does the sore throat feel like? And a lot of times I get like, oh, it hurts. Okay, but what does the pain feel like? And one of you might say it burns. It just burns and it's on the left side of my throat. And when I drink something hot, it actually makes it feel better. And the other one of you might say it feels like I have glass in my throat. And when I eat, it feels better. But if I drink anything, it makes it worse. And I feel like things get stuck like in my throat pit. So those are two very different descriptors of what you are experiencing. So they're going to point me to two very different remedies. And then we would ask additional questions like, what was happening before you got sick? What other symptoms do you have? Do you have chills? Do you have a fever? Do you have any stomach issues going on at the same time? What else is happening? So we can get the totality of what you are experiencing.
What about specific, let's talk about women specifically. So are homeopathic remedies safe for pregnancy? And how about nursing?
Absolutely. They're absolutely safe. They are non-toxic. They are, because of that process, that potentization and succussion, the harmful qualities that could be present in the substance have been removed to allow the healing properties of the substance to be integrated within the person's vital force. So again, you're working in that realm of physics.
Yeah. So oftentimes, when a woman is pregnant, she's cautioned to use certain medications and things like that. So homeopathy might be a really great avenue for pregnancy, even just for simple things like headaches and stuff like that. There's other remedies that you can take outside of medications that you're typically told to avoid, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. What about infants? Because if most of these are in pellets, how do you do that with infants?
There's a lot of different ways. So if someone is still nursing, especially early on, what we can do is we'll just have them put the little tiny, the pellets are teeny, 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 tiny. We just have them put the pellet inside the baby's cheek right before they're going to nurse. Or we can dissolve the pellets into water and then just kind of give little sips of, just put the water in their mouth. As long as a remedy touches the mucous membranes, the vital force has received the remedy.
Wow. Awesome.
So there's a lot of different ways, especially and there's also kids, there's kids that just don't like pellets. Even these are tiny, even though they have a little sweetness to them, they have some issues with it. That's fine. Then we just do the dosing via water.
Okay. Well, that's really good to know. Now, staying on the topic of kids, now there are some remedies, I guess you could call them, in stores that are in liquid form. So like cold and flu, things like that, but they'll say homeopathic on the label. Are those worth anything? Are they just a waste of money? Honestly,
I would encourage, if someone is interested in using those, I would encourage them to look at what's in it. How many different remedies are in it? What is the potency? If it is a really, really low potency, like a 4x, a 6x, that's very closer to material substance. And if it does not have the HPUS designation on it, then I would encourage them to do more research on what that is. It would be, it could just end up being very confusing on whether or not the product is working. It may work great. It may work great for them. I've had people say, "Oh, but I love this particular product. It works great every time."
Great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. But from a classical homeopathy and really understanding and tracking the symptom state, it's a little bit more difficult with those.
well, I feel like this was a really good overview. We talked about potentization. We talked about combining different types. We talked about store-bought versus something that you offer. Are there any other common questions you get about remedies?
A lot of questions I get is, does this interfere with a medication that I'm on? Or some people think that, well, if I'm going to see a homeopath and I want to take a homeopathic remedy, I have to stop whatever medication I might be on. And you don't. Homeopathic remedies don't interfere with other medications. You just need to make sure you let your homeopath know exactly what you're taking, because we need to track that. We need to understand what that medication is doing to your body. Because remember, that's chemistry. It's having that chemical reaction. And so that we can have an understanding of how the remedy is getting a response out of your vital force. But there's no interference with homeopathic remedies and other medicines.
Yeah, that's really good to know. Any other thoughts on remedies?
No.
Well, we covered a lot. We covered a lot in a really short amount of time.
This is just a really good leeway right into our next topic, which is going to be about homeopathy in everyday life. So we're going to be talking more about remedies and how it applies to people in different ways. So yeah,
I think that kit that you talked about, the home kit, is really attractive. I'm definitely going to be looking into that myself. But I do want to let listeners know that Sandy is offering $10 off an acute care consultation and 10% off of a home remedy kit. So if that kit intrigued you like it did me, just so that you know, she's offering 10% off for any of our listeners. All you have to do is reference the Motherhood Alliance podcast. She serves people in Appleton, Wisconsin, as well as virtually. So you can contact her through her website, right, Sandy? Can you tell us how they can contact you?
Yep. Via my website is probably the easiest. My website is sourcehealinghome.com. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. But if you just go to the website, you have an opportunity to contact me that way. It has my email address. You can just email me as well, too.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.